And welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. This show is dedicated to the cultivation of the human intelligence in a world obsessed and pursuing artificial intelligence. And we are effectively, as a culture and as a world, on a race to the moon in one sense, where we are really seeking to cultivate these tools and softwares and technologies before other countries and get ahead and implements it in our business and ultimately our lives. And as a result, we are more disconnected than ever. We are also more advanced than ever and perhaps more efficient, but we're not seeing that kind of inner satiation that we're all striving for and really seeking at the end of the day. And so, for that reason, along with many others, we realize that our greatest asset in this race towards artificial intelligence, it really is ourselves. As jobs are lost, the ones who are remaining are ones who have the ability to connect with other people, the ability to connect with our customers. And as more jobs are being taken, others are actually being created that have more of a place for the human to human interaction and the person to person connection that not only we ourselves are quietly craving that we don't even realize, but also our customer. 95% of purchase decisions take place in the subconscious, which is where our emotions live. So it is both a business decision and also a personal one as it pertains to the cultivation of ourselves, that we do this investment, that we go inward, that we know who we are, and that we then can go outward and get to know others, our children, our customers, yes, our partner, our employees, and everyone in between. It is so incredibly important that we take this time to understand, to know. And that's why we're here on the Knowing Show. And so on our morning shows, we go live at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific during the week, 11 a.m. Eastern, and 8 a.m. Pacific on the weekends. And this morning show, we actually are moving through a daily lesson in A Course in Miracles. And this Course in Miracles deals with maybe two, sometimes even three of the human intelligences. When we think about the human intelligence, it is mind, body, soul, and spirit. And the Course in Miracles really tends to the mind, controlling the mind, as well as the spirit, and it will touch at times on the soul and body. But for the most part, it is the integration of the spirit and the mind. Because so often we think that these narratives in our minds and these thoughts that we have are without our consent and without our control, and we actually are victims to our own mind. And the exciting part is that is not true, and that we get the opportunity to take our minds back, to start taking control of them. What we think about, where we place our attention, is where we place our energy. And so if we want to see change in our life, if we want to grow in a business, if we want to grow in a relationship, if we want to grow in any regard, we can do so with the intentional pursuit of changing our thoughts and changing the energy that's behind every single one of them. And so the controlling of the mind is perhaps one of the greatest of all human endeavors, because that is where we get to see real change in our physical world. And with that, I am actually going to read through this lesson. I'm going to do a little bit of a review, and then we're going to dive into today's lesson. We are in the smack dab in the middle of a review in A Course in Miracles right now, and it's a worthy endeavor. So please join me. Lesson 121, forgiveness is the key to happiness. Lesson 122, forgiveness offers everything I want. Lesson 123, I thank my Father for his gifts to me. Lesson 124, let me remember I am one with God. Lesson 125, in quiet, I receive God's word today. Lesson 126, all that I give is given to myself. Lesson 127, there is no love but God's. Lesson 128, the world I see holds nothing that I want. Lesson 129, beyond this world, there is a world I want. Lesson 130, it is impossible to see two worlds. Lesson 131, no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. Lesson 132, I loose the world from all I thought it was. Lesson 133, I will not value what is valueless. Lesson 134, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. And we're actually going to dive into lesson 133 as our main focus for today. I will not value what is valueless. Sometimes in teaching, there is benefit, particularly after you have gone through what seems theoretical and far from what the student has learned, to bring him back to practical concerns. This is what we will do today. We will not speak of lofty, world-encompassing ideas, but dwell instead on benefits to you. You do not ask too much of this life, but far too little. When you let your mind be drawn to bodily concerns, to things you buy, to eminence as valued by the world, you ask for sorrow and not for happiness. This course does not attempt to take from you the little that you have. It does not try to substitute utopian ideas for satisfaction which the world contains. There is no satisfaction in the world. Today, we list the real criteria by which to test all things you think you want. Unless they meet these sound requirements, they are not worth desiring at all, for they can but replace what offers more. The laws that govern choice you cannot make, no more than you can make alternatives from which to choose. The choosing you can do, indeed, you must. But it is wise to learn the laws you set in motion when you choose and what alternatives you choose between. You have already stressed there are but two, however many there appear to be. The range is set, and this we cannot change. It would be most ungenerous of you, to let alternatives be limitless and thus delay your final choice until you have considered all of them in time and not been brought so clearly to the place where there is but one choice that must be made. Another kindly and related law is that there is no compromise in what your choice must bring. It cannot give you just a little, for there is no in between. Each choice you make brings everything to you or nothing. Therefore, if you learn the tests by which you can distinguish everything from nothing, you will make the better choice. First, if you choose a thing that will not last forever, what you choose is valueless. A temporary value is without all value. Time can never take away a value that is real. What fades and dies was never there and makes no offering to him who chooses it. He is deceived by nothing in a form he thinks he likes. Next, if you choose to value a thing away from someone else, you will have nothing left. This is because when you deny his right to everything, you have denied your own. You therefore will not recognize the things you really have, denying they are there. Who seeks to take away has been deceived by the illusion loss can offer gain, yet loss can only offer loss and nothing more. Your next consideration is the one on which the others rest. Why is the choice you make of value to you? What attracts your mind to it? What purpose does it serve? Here it is easiest of all to be deceived. For what the ego wants, it fails to recognize. It does not even tell the truth as it perceives it, for it needs to keep the halo which it uses to protect its goals from tarnish and rust, that you may see how innocent it is. Yet it is in camouflage, a thin veneer, which could deceive but those who are content to be deceived. Its goals are obvious to anyone who cares to look at them. Here is deception doubled. For the one who is deceived will not perceive that he has nearly failed to gain. He will believe that he has served the ego's hidden goals. Yet though he tries to keep its halo clear within his vision, still must he perceive its tarnished edges and its rusted core. His ineffectual mistake appears as sins to him, because he looks upon the tarnish as his own, the rust a sign of deep unworthiness within himself. He would still preserve the ego's goals to serve him as he makes his own mistakes according to the dictates of his guide. This guidance teaches it is error to believe that sins are but mistakes, for who would suffer for his sins if this were so? And so we come to the criterion for choice that is hardest to realize or hardest to believe because its obviousness is overlaid with many levels of obscurity. If you feel any guilt about your choice, you have allowed the ego's goals to come between the real alternatives. And thus you do not realize there are but two, and the alternative you think you choose seems fearful and too dangerous to be the nothingness it actually is. All things are valuable or valueless, worthy or not of being sought at all, entirely desirable or not worth the slightest effort to obtain. Choosing is easy just because of this. Complexity is nothing but a screen of smoke, which hides the very simple fact that no decision can be difficult. What is the gain to you in learning this? It is far more than merely letting you make choices easily and without pain. Heaven itself is reached with empty hands and open minds, which come with nothing to find everything and claim it as their own. We will attempt to reach this state today with self-deception laid aside and with an honest willingness to value but the truly valuable and the real. For our 2 extended practice periods of 15 minutes each day begin with this: I will not value what is valueless, and only what has value do I seek. For only that do I desire I find. And then receive what waits for everyone who reaches you unencumbered to the gate of heaven, each with which swings open as he comes. Should you begin to let yourself collect some needless burdens or believe you see some difficult decisions facing you, be quick to answer with this simple thought: I will not value what is valueless, for what is valuable belongs to me. Y'all, right out of the gate, this lesson begins with something akin to one of my very favorite quotes. She says, "You do not ask too much of life, but far too little. When you let your mind be drawn to bodily concerns, to things you buy, to eminence as valued by the world, you ask for sorrow and not for happiness." Y'all, our aim is too low. That is one of my favorite quotes by Michelangelo, is that the biggest shame is in life is not that we aim for goals and then we reach them. The biggest shame is that we actually never aimed high enough. And for so many of us, this is where we fall. This is where we sit as we are looking at the world. Like, if we, each one of us, were to look up from our computers and look around and just consider, am I living a big enough life? Am I living a life that I am actually dreaming beyond what is probably possible and realistic? Yo, when we were kids, man, we were dreaming of the most ridiculous things. And some of them have actually come true. When I was a little girl, all I wanted was to be in a movie. Well, I was, and it was all because I had this little dream, and it was the most perfect movie. It was exactly what I dreamed of as a little girl. And now I'm continuously feeling almost like prompted and encouraged by others, but also, honestly, even when I pray, I feel like I need to allow for the ceiling to be raised. I read this book over the weekend called Stop Self-Sabotage by a therapist, Pat Pearson. She's incredible. This book is so simple. It has exercises in there, and I got very clear on where I am and have in the past sabotaged my own life. Financially, specifically. Financially was a big one. Even just success. But a lot of it is the professional side of things is that I'll self-sabotage. And for those reasons, I'm looking at my life right now and I'm like, okay, am I dreaming big enough? And do I have the inner life cultivated so that when I have the opportunity, I can actually step in and take it? Or am I just going to self-sabotage everything in my hemisphere? So y'all, this question of, do you ask enough of life? Is your aim high enough? I was talking with a brilliant man, a brilliant investor a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about what makes us as humans fundamentally different from AI, artificial intelligence. And he said something that was so fascinating to me. He said, I think it's actually our ability to imagine. Imagination is something that, AI can only work off of the data that it has. But we have the ability to dream, to imagine, to conjure up something new. And y'all, when we look back over history, Henry Ford, how in the world could you think of a car? It blows my mind, that level of invention. The telephone, electricity, like people who figured out these incredible inventions that have fundamentally changed all of life. for every single one of us, for the most part, spanning the globe. Y'all, they had to have space and time in their life to imagine and create on the other side of that. Whether we're making and imagining some big inventions, or we're just wanting to imagine a better life for ourselves than that which we were raised with, or even a better life as it pertains to the emotional spectrum, or maybe even the intellectual or the physical. Maybe your generation and your generational line from your family, maybe no one's been able to curb diabetes. Maybe no one's really been able to ever really get in good, healthy shape, and there's just a line of heart disease or cancer. Maybe your family just doesn't know how to do relationships and have hard conversations. And so you're going to change that. And you've got a big enough dream. And then we think about Martin Luther King Jr., and we think of all these people who made such an impact. Harriet Beecher Stowe, this white woman who had a dream in the middle of the night about a slave getting beaten and beaten, and then she woke up and wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, and it became the #1 best-selling books, and it sold more copies than any other book at its time other than the Bible. Y'all, are we willing to dream, to allow for us to put aside distractions and even technology, to take time after conversations such as this to sit in stillness and allow for God to speak to us, for our own intuition and our own dreams that maybe we've silenced from years ago to resurface, to just go for a walk and look at the clouds and look at the sky, to exist with our own mind. And then the question becomes, is your mind something that's actually safe to be with? Or is it full of that which is negative and that which is fearful? Because if it's filled with that which is fearful, well, then we'll do anything possible to get away from it and silence it. But if it is actually under control and it's under love and it's ruled and guided by peace, well, now you can actually go and exist in your own mind and get the ideas and get the inspiration and be creative. And now you are moving from being a consumer to being a creator. And that's the goal for so many of us, is that our products, our services, our offerings, and our content, the way that we are showing up as a family, that we are creating the environment. Have you guys thought about this? This realization completely floored me. I realized the environment in which I grew up in, my childhood, when I look back, the family dinners, the time where we would come home from school, the playing outside, all of that, I am facilitating for myself now as an adult. I don't have kids yet. And at some point, I'm going to welcome children into the environment that I'm creating. But if I'm living on autopilot, I'm not creating anything. I'm copying that which I've seen, that which was modeled to me, that which I inherited, versus creating something with intention. The Middle English, 15th century word intention, man, that encompassed every part of us, mind, body, soul, spirit. It's like all of my life forces moving towards that which I am intending. So if I'm intending to create a beautiful home and a beautiful environment that nurtures me, that cultivates me, that allows for me to grow as an individual, that welcomes people in, that makes people want to be around me, my children included, y'all, do our kids want to be around us? Or do they want to go be on their rooms, on their cell phones, or on their laptops, or with their AI companions? Have we created an environment that they love and that is life-giving to them? You do not ask too much of life, but far too little. Y'all, that's all we need. That's all we need just to camp out here this morning. Because if we want to have proper value placed on that which is everlasting, that which is eternal, that which will never die, which is the human soul, the human spirit, and even just this whole concept of, okay, well, what cultivates the human soul and human spirit? Experiences, relationships. Sometimes money is the facilitator of that, right? So we need that in so many ways. And at the same time, how much are we fixated on doing versus just being present to even enjoy all that you've worked so hard to facilitate for your family? I've seen this happen, where a lot of the folks that I'll work with, they will realize that they forget their why, and their why is their family. They're spending so much time working and striving to create a beautiful life that they are never actually living it. So you do not ask too much of life, but far too little. Are we dreaming big enough for the life that we're creating? And are we actually active participants in it? Or are we imagining a life for our family without us even in the picture? Are we imagining a life for our employees, for our business, for the future, but we're not active participants in the life that we're living today? My uncle is my other uncle. My uncle on my mom's side passed away last month. And yesterday we got the news that my uncle on my dad's side has probably around 24 hours to live. So I have a flight home tomorrow. Y'all, we don't know how long we have. We don't know how long we have with our loved ones. We don't know how long we have with even the impact that we could possibly make. Whether you're coming in and talking to a team, whether you're coming in and talking on a podcast, whether you're showing up to your children's school to volunteer, you don't know how brief or how extended your time for impact is. Do you have something to say? Or are we asking too little of life? Y'all, I think all of us can just walk away from this being more encouraged to ask more, to dream bigger, because there is so much of life to be lived, so much of life to take. And really, one of my favorite song lyrics is, I want to live this one wild life. I want to rip it apart. It's a visceral engagement with life. And so to that point, man, I feel encouraged to live bigger and brighter and to dream more and imagine. But in order to do so, we actually need to strip ourselves from those distractions that so easily entangle us and so easily get us worked up and wrapped up in the concerns of today. So I'm just going to drop here in the chat. Fabian, good morning. I'm glad to see you. Marty, good morning. Adrian, good morning. Lewis, good morning. I'm glad to see you. I love it. Louis says, dream big. I love that. Yoda, good morning. I'm so glad you're here. Default, good morning. I'm Millie, good morning. Steve, good morning from the UK. I'm actually hoping to come in October, so I'm very excited. Hopefully we can all get together. Berkeley, good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Steve, good morning. Thanks for hanging out. Charlie, good morning. Good to see you. Paxton, I'm so glad to see you too. David, good morning. Z-Core, good morning. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. This is so important. Philip, a good morning for miracles for everyone. Oh, I love that. Mind Static, good morning. Y'all, Tommy, good morning from Sweden. Oh, I would love to visit Sweden too. Y'all, I'm just so reminded that we don't know how long we've got. And that doesn't mean that we actually should live in fear or operate in fear. Actually, that means the very opposite, that we are to love bigger and dream more and go get that which we want and feel called to, and that which we honestly, this book about sabotaging, she talks about, what do you deserve? And even that whole concept of what do I deserve, I kind of recoil a little bit, because that is so not how I was raised to think. It was actually, I grew up very fundamentalist Christian. And so my parents, particularly my mom, has a belief that we all deserve hell. So how in the world could I ever think that I deserve anything more than that? Because thank God I'm just alive. And so there's that subconscious message that I have held for so much of my life, so that then when good things start happening, I will self-sabotage the good and the successful, because, well, I just should be living kind of a neutral life. I shouldn't be living something so great, because according to the fundamentalist Christian, I deserve to be dead right now. So that changes everything. If I go from that mindset of, I'm just glad to be alive, to, I'm so glad to be alive, and I'm going to make every single second worth it, every single second of value, of meaning to make change and impact everywhere I go, everywhere I can. Because we don't know when we'll get this opportunity with each other again, and we don't know how long we have. So I want to live this one wild life, and I want to rip it apart and do myself and do God proud. Andrea, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Adrian, I'm going to go ahead and just block you because it doesn't seem like you want to be here. Brian, good morning. I'm so glad to see you. Hello, my friend. I'm glad you're here. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad that you're here. And it's funny, you know, we're all here for a reason, here right now in this moment. And maybe take whatever we can and go love as a result, and go live better and brighter as a result of this. So thank you so much for joining. I will be back on with you all again. We will not be doing trivia today. I actually need to go and pack up for my trip tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll be back on at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. So I will see you then. Thank you guys. Bye.